So you think he's been at this for at least a couple of weeks?
Without any shadow of a doubt. I decided on sort of Wednesday morning. I said, look, we've got to do something. There's so much appetite. And as we go around the country and fill up halls wherever we go. So, yeah, to do this in this space of time. And it shows you there's a real energy behind what we're doing.
How are you feeling after today?
I loved it. I love the optimism. I love the humour. I love the fact these people care, but they have fun at the same time. This is real.
New information from The Sun on Sunday shows that Andrew Parker, the canvasser in Clacton, published a video to TikTok calling for third world filth to be booted out of Britain. Did he get paid by Channel 4 for that as well?
Channel 4 didn't pay him. They're much too clever for that. No. What Channel 4 do is they give all this off to a production company. And something between him and the production company happened. Exactly what it is, I don't know. What I can tell you is this. Andrew Parker is a very posh actor and part-time journalist. You know, he advertises his services for undercover filming and reporting. So he's an actor, journalist.
But he's posted comments like this, third world filth, to his own TikTok account.
Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, extraordinary.
So how is he an actor if those represent some of his beliefs?
If you're coming along to genuinely support me, you don't put on an accent from your alter ego, which is what he did from the very moment he turned up in Clacton.
But what about the TikTok video, which was published just after you announced that you'd stand as a candidate? This was a few weeks ago.
Again, done with a false accent. This is the alter ego. He calls it rough speaking. It's a modern-day Alf Garnett.
So you think his act started with that TikTok video?
I've no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You know, this is a very well-spoken, well-educated actor.
So you think he's been at this for at least a couple of weeks?
Without any shadow of a doubt.
OK. Tell me how many candidates have been suspended now by Reform?
It's about a dozen, I think. Whether we've had more problems than the Greens, I couldn't tell you. Yeah. It's about a dozen. I'm very unhappy to have inherited these people. I was able, with the Brexit Party, to drive anything like that out completely. You know, we've had some bad apples. It's a classic problem of a start-up.
So a dozen. We only know of 3 so far. So I wonder if Reform would be able to let the members of the press know who the other candidates are.
Absolutely no idea. All right, maybe it's more. I don't know. I'm working 20 hours a day.
Shouldn't you know?
No, I'm working 20 hours a day.
But these are people who are misrepresenting your party, who are making homophobic and racist comments.
Well, there are 600 and something of them standing for us. I've no idea.
Do you really think the media establishment is trying to bring you down? We're all here, the major broadcasters, giving you plenty of coverage, trying to be fair in our coverage as well. Do you really think we're trying to bring you down?
Well, look, I mean, halfway through Anne Widdecombe's speech, TikTok suspended the live stream and said that Widdecombe had used hate speech. That's quite a good example of something very odd going on, and that happened just an hour ago.
You say that Russia has had no influence whatsoever on your success. Can I get you to confirm then that Reform has not been colluding with any outside state across any digital campaigns? Can you shut this down once and for all?
Unlike the Conservative Party, we haven't taken millions of pounds from Russian sources over the last few years. And how dare the Deputy Prime Minister, Oliver Dowden, I mean, not that anyone's ever heard of him, but the Deputy Prime Minister make this accusation. This is just the classic. It's back to the Russia hoax. We saw it after the referendum. It keeps coming back again and again and again. It is a load of old nonsense.
OK, so just to confirm, Reform has not worked with any outside states at all in their social media coverage?
Of course not. Of course not.
So how do you explain these 4 social media accounts posting content which is campaigning for you effectively? How has that happened?
4 or 5 tiny Facebook accounts. We've got no idea who the beneficial owners are. I tell you what, there's an awful lot of well-funded Facebook accounts out there against us. Now, whether they're funded by the Chinese or anybody else, I've no idea.
I hope you can hear me. It's very loud here. There have been whooping cheers and applause, a standing ovation for Nigel Farage, who's just finished this afternoon at this Rally for Reform event at the Birmingham NEC. 5,000 seats here in the auditorium. I think most of them filled, so I'd estimate about 4,500 people here, Alexis. It's very American style. There are Union Jack flags. There's a podium for the speakers to stand on. Nigel Farage came out to pyrotechnics, smoke machines. It is a big event with a lot of people and a lot of support in this room for ReformUK.
Can you give us a gist of what Nigel Farage was saying to the 4,500 people in the auditorium?
Yep, sure. Well, I think first of all, let's address those comments, the several allegations against several Reform candidates, racist and misogynistic language. Most importantly, let's focus on Andrew Parker, who is the canvasser in Clacton, Farage's own constituency, who has been told to step away from the campaign. But Farage again this afternoon, Alexis, really insisting that it was a setup. Okay, it was a hoax that Andrew Parker was paid, a paid actor. So he's doubling down on that today. He's also called for the BBC to be abolished as our state broadcaster, and said very defiantly that Russia has had no interference in Reform's election campaign whatsoever. That was, of course, after the story about social media pages pushing Reform's lines. So he's had some very emphatic things to say this afternoon. He's doubled down on pretty much everything. He's doubled down on his support. Sorry, Alexis, it's so loud here. In terms of climate change, in terms of his economic policies, and of course he's been playing to a very friendly crowd. Right, with Chris Clowes from Rutland and Stamford. You're speaking on behalf of the Reform Party now. Tell me why people should vote Reform on July the 4th. Give me your 60-second elevator pitch.
Well, it's the party of common sense, really. When it comes to the NHS, why not use the private side? There are doctors there already. When it comes to farming, they're being punished at the minute and it's too expensive to do the SFI schemes. So what do? We want to support the small farmers to have our own food rather than importing it. Only 50% of our own food is brought in that way. We need to very simply get the border stopped, because at some point in the future we will have to pay for this immigration. You know, it is an issue there, but at the end of the day the Conservatives have abandoned the people that voted for them. And we're here to change that, and we're here to bring conservatism back. But we need change for that, and we need to get things back to the standard of living increasing again. Housing prices go up, but wages stay the same. It's unfair on people.
Some of your policies are controversial. Some of them people would struggle to fund, or our economy would struggle to fund properly. And so therefore some people might say, why should we take Reform seriously? Your contract with the people doesn't add up. Is it meant to add up? Is it more about the message than about the maths?
It's a contract, so we will be undertaking, if we get into power, what we are doing there. And frankly, none of the other parties ever hold true to their manifesto. We're the ones who actually say it's a contract, not just words before an election to try and get people in and then do the opposite. You know, so that I do think we've got the idea, we've got the long-term goals, we know what we want, we have a vision, and it's working towards that rather than I don't even know how to describe. But remember, in the Conservative manifesto they use the word reform 38 times, and Labour 52, and the Lib Dem one 22 times.
Is Reform old enough to make a serious splash, to make a serious difference if a candidate is to become an MP? And we know that you won't form the next government. Of course, we need to be realistic about that. Is Reform mature enough to have several MPs?
I think if you look across all of Europe, you know, you have very new parties popping up all the time. You know, that's with proportional representation, where the people are getting more directly represented. We should be moving towards that. I think it's interesting always when people say Farage has never had any experience with this, when he did a huge stint in the European Parliament. You know, he knows how to manage it. We know how the things work. I've worked in the European Parliament before. You know, you get fresh faces in there all the time. That's how democracy should be.
What does the Reform voter stand for? If you're to give me, from your experience, someone who votes Reform, what do they look like? What do they stand for?
Well, it's just general common sense. I know people across the age spectrum, across all the spectrums of what people can look like, who have come forward to say support. But the main thing that seems to ring true is common sense. It's going, oh, well, you know, why are these weird stuff going on? Why is there hyper-regulation coming in? People just want to live their lives. People don't want state interference as much. You know, let people live their lives. That's all it is. No one wants to be form-filling all the time. And very simply, we want to keep people's lives simple.
And what matters to Reform voters, if you're putting your plea out there for people to place a cross in the box, if there is a candidate in their constituency for Reform, What do those people stand for? What is attracting them to Reform?
Something new. We're not the same old parties. You know, for my entire adult life, we've had the Tories in, and you look at Labour and you see no differences. You see them bickering constantly, but you don't see anything new coming up. That's what it's about. We need something new, something fresh. The Tories have existed for 150 years. I think that's past expiry.
Do you think that ultimately you will replace the Conservative Party?
I do, yes.
Give me your basis for that.
People need something new, and we need to. The Conservatives can't be conservative. Sunak's taken them down this very technocratic route, which, you know, having looked at what happened in Italy under Mario Draghi, hasn't worked. You know, it doesn't. You need the long-term vision, and that's what we have. The Conservatives no longer have the vision. They no longer know what they represent. They get voted in by the rural areas, and then make all the focus on policy that's not to do with the rural areas.
The Conservatives have said a vote for Reform is a vote for Labour. All you're doing is eating away at the Conservative vote. What is most important? Is it to try and demolish the Conservatives constituency by constituency, or is it to try and inflict as little a gain for Labour this election as possible?
I wouldn't actually go for those. I think voting for Reform is a vote of principle, that you want change, you want something different. And the Tories have expired. And if we get more votes than them overall, but less seats, you know, there's going to have to be some serious conversations had in Parliament about proportional representation.
Both candidates and canvassers, there is evidence of anti-Semitic comments, racist abuse, homophobic abuse. How does the party deal with that? It's not a good look, is it?
No, and it's terrible, and it's always a shame to see it coming out of any party. In Labour, obviously, there's been quite a lot of those remarks being made, and they've had people out for it. It is horrific, and there is a guillotine in Reform for anybody who does step out of line in that way.
So all candidates who it's proven have made racist, homophobic comments, candidates' canvassers should be suspended, because not all of them have been. Only a small amount, compared to the allegations out there, only a small amount, 3 or 4 have been suspended to this point.
I think that seems to be the case across for both the Tories, Labour and Greens. You know, you hear horrific stuff coming from activists, from everyone, and we can't police.
What about candidates, though, rather than activists? Surely if there's evidence that a candidate has tweeted support of Tommy Robinson, for example, an anti-Semitic comment, and that is down on the public record on social media, should that candidate be suspended?
Yes, I do think so. As you said, we are young and forming, and sadly, you know, there is some people that don't have, you know, very good, frankly, decorum, and it's just not pleasant for anyone.
Why hasn't the party suspended all of them, though? Why are we still talking about them?
I believe these comments were made years ago, and it was dug up, but frankly, it wasn't found, as the vetting company that we used wasn't able to find it. So, obviously, that's a big issue for us, and we are looking into it and looking to obviously get rid of them. But sadly, once someone's put on the ballot paper, you can't get rid of them.
Thank you so much. Thank you.